Training today from our able financial coach, Mr. Patrick Wamweyo. So he's going to take us through financial management. And at this juncture, let me welcome him so that he can introduce himself further as he gets into today's presentation. So I kindly ask of you members to kindly mute so that we can have a good presentation whereby we don't have any unnecessary background noise. You're most welcome, Patrick, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Am I too loud or is it good enough?
Good enough.
Do I need to change the level of the speaker?
It's quite nice. Maybe if you can increase it a little bit.
I can raise it a little. Okay, just a minute. How about that?
Yeah, that's good.
Good. Thanks. I think we can proceed. For purposes of putting face to who is talking to you, that is me. I'll remove the video to increase the bandwidth. My name is Patrick Wamweyo. I'm a consultant in the financial services space, both as a financial literacy consultant and a credit skills consultant. I do train staff of banks on matters credit, and I do work on credit systems. But along that, I also do the personal finance, both the planning and the training elements. So just in case you need help later, I am available. So I'm already sharing my slides so that we can start from the basics. For purposes of today's session, we narrowed onto 2 items. And the first one was managing finances during a tough time. During tough times, we've been having some crazy financial stresses since the government decided to do a few things to our payslips. And then there is also the issue of just appreciating why we will keep going back to those troubles, the psychology of money. So I will touch on the psychology a bit, but I'll spend more time doing the discussion on how we can play around with our expenses and incomes to be able to get more value for the shilling that has become less. And then I will also take you through a very practical step of doing an assessment of your current situation, for which I will use some Excel tool to just be able to highlight a few things, because you need to deal with you first, then deal with your money. Where the you element now means what I meant by the psychology of money. Once you've appreciated what drives your behaviors, in which case then you should understand, what do I manage about my thoughts, about my habits, about what then pops up as behaviors. And once you manage it, which the management of which is in the mind, then you start to ask, how has my past brought me to where I am, and how does the present look like? Is it good? Is it bad? What do we need to do to move from here? Before you embark on any element of financial planning, you need to take a very honest review of where you are. A very, very honest review. So that is what we are here to do. It is 7 minutes past 10, and we have approximately 2 hours to discuss the topics, including the question and answer session, approximately 1.5 from what was marked, but I'm available, not a problem. So that was me when I was a little bit younger in consulting. That was 15 years ago. Unfortunately, I have not changed much. The issues that are of importance is what we have there, the psychology of money, and I will not discuss the financial planning process even though what I'll be discussing, the assessment of current financial situation, is actually an element of the financial planning process. Why I will not do that is because of the time available. I will jump the first stage and move straight to that second stage because it is essential in appreciating the management of expenses and waste watching, so that if I don't do it, then that step will not work well. So the three items in black are really items, one item divided into several others, but it's more than the two. Although we want to focus on the two items, number 3, number 4. But before that, I'll discuss something about the psychology of money. And I'll run ahead of my slides and then come back. So allow me to go there and come back because I need to do that without losing anything. So what you have before you, Adamaris, confirm you are seeing my slide that has the staircases.
Yes, we can see.
Good. What we have before us is a financial planning tool. One that helps us to see both where we are, where we have come from, and where we are going. In a nutshell, you plan for yourself and you plan for others. So as a family person, you plan for yourself and your spouse from whatever you are between number 5 and number 9 and beyond. And you also plan for your children, born and unborn, between numbers 1, 2, and 3. That is the first value of that staircase. But more importantly, is the appreciation that wherever you are between number 4 and number 9, before you retire, you are once a child. And there are things you learned as a child between ages 1 and 14, from numbers 1 and 2, which affect your financial behaviors to this very morning. So I want us to deal with them because it would be impossible to progress from number 5 to 9 without appreciating why we behave the way we behave today. Because that behavior will not exit just because it is time. You have to exit it, and you have to put in a process for either exiting, altering, or changing fundamentally. Someone is talking, so please mute. Please mute. So what I was saying is financial behaviors are part of us. They don't come from outside. They are driven from inside our mind. And we need to appreciate what parts of that engine we need to touch and what kind of touch. And so I'll take a few moments just to discuss what happens very generally in stage 1 and stage 2 there, stage 3, before we enter the mid of stage 4. Stage 1, number of ages 1 to 7, the very first stage of brain development occur. The baby is in the presence of the parenting nurture. It could be parents, could be uncles, could be grandmother, whatever. Different people are raised in different environments. But those people who raise you, whom you call your nurture, leave lasting things in your mind. They don't teach you, you imbibe. You observe and imitate in those ages. In ages 8 up to 14, there is still a lot of imitation, but at this stage, the child begins to also learn from the external environment. And increasingly, that rate of learning is also rising faster. By age 12, children are generally just external. It is now the Ronaldos that matter to their life, not you. When they were kids, you were their everything. But when they come to that age, they begin to listen to friends. So the children of today who are raised in an environment where we have mobile phones with apps, they are even learning more than we learned, those of us who are raised in the manual world. So a 20-year-old person who has been here with the mobile phone for the longest time is not the 20-year-old that you had only 3 years earlier. They are very different. The one of 3 years earlier learned to use the phone later. The one that was there when the phones were there learned to use the phone as soon as they could touch it. And they have accessed quite a bit of information. So please appreciate that the child of today is not the child that you represent, but you do have similar things you learned from the same people as a standard. Second stage of brain development, largely around age 14 to 16 there, depending on whether you are a fast grower or a slow grower, is another crucial stage, usually up to Form 2, age 16. That's the main place where these people are found. Then the third stage of brain development and the final one happens just about when you're turning 25. So once you're 25, your view of the world is like permanent. In other words, if you don't make a personal choice, you don't have a motivation to change anything, you may just walk like you're blind until you pass age 71. So it's important that you appreciate what drives your present behavior set. Those behaviors are what you finance. And by the time you are saying you are broke and others are not broke, it is because your set of behaviors have taken the money away, even though all of you are paid a salary on the same day. And we need to deal with that. So it is us first before we discuss our money. The brain is nicely designed. 90% is read-only memory, storage, what we call the subconscious. Only 10% is random access memory equivalent that processes things. So your experiences before you turn 25 actually shape how you view the world the moment you turn 25. Hello. And when I say how you view the world is how you react to literally everything. Somebody needs to mute. Mm-hmm. Please mute.
Members, kindly mute so that we can have a good presentation. Kindly.
If Patrick, you're talking, you are muted, eh?
Muted when the central muting is done. Sorry for that. If you're not hearing me, please let me know because I might not know that I have been muted when muting is done centrally. So, like I was saying, as you walk this journey from number 1 to beyond number 11, the cleansing of the mind along the way is a really unnecessary process. When the government, for example, decides that we all pay higher NSSF, we all pay higher NHIF fees, we all pay housing levy, all our pay slips are affected. But some people feel more pain than others, not because their income was smaller, It is because they are currently spending that money in a way that they already what is remaining is very little. So what we really need is to start asking ourselves why, and that's what I want to do right now. So I'll go back and start discussing the things that arise from that very quickly without wasting time. I've basically been trying to say that our financial behaviors, our finances, and our financial success and our behaviors in one way or the other are linked. When you spend money, when you release money from the bank, it is either spent eaten or spent invested or spent saved. So the more that goes to the consumer, the less you have now and in the future, of course. There's an element of need to control that, what leads us to drive the money out, the emotions. Now, the brain can only be either logical or emotional. Like the hourglass, you either have sand on the upper side or on the lower side. You can't be emotional and logical at the same time. You've got to be the kind of person who increases their logical thinking and action and reduces their emotional thinking and acting for you to be able to put money where you really think it must go first. Otherwise, you will tend to do things that excite you more, including those ones that you are remorseful about. At the end of the day, the month is gone and the money is gone. So first thing is managing ourselves. It is our psychology on how we view the things we value, the things we think are important, that we give more time and give more money. And that is a fundamental place to start. I don't want to discuss all these items, but I want to allude to number 7 because I'll be discussing what happens around number 7. There are many ways of making money, but there's only one way of keeping money, by being frugal. You make money. If you don't let money stay and multiply, it is not staying. Whether it's multiplying slowly or multiplying fast, any monies which are multiplying stay. Any monies which is not multiplying is not staying. So being frugal is a lifestyle. It's not being mean. It's not being a miser. It's about where does the money go first. Prioritizing and trying to look for value. A challenge, a very big challenge in our young population of today. Just being able to look for value. You know, that those value, people who are value searching, it makes a whole hell of a difference. So item number 6 and the other items that are follow are about investment. In one way or the other, we need to invest. One, we need to take risk so that we can get more out of it. Number 2, at one point or the other, we need to risk assets which we already have to be able to access money and do something else. By the time you have to use your assets, you really need to be sure that the risk I'm taking with my already purchased asset is really worth it. Because if you don't, you'll be in trouble. There are lots of people who have been brought down by the behaviors of others. You support someone with your asset to access money, but they're not the kind of people who care about paying their debts. So you end up losing your entire savings because you supported someone with either your property or your savings, and is a kind of a person who doesn't value paying back loans. So you lose because you lost before you started. You did not check the person that you are dealing with, and that leads to a lot of trouble along the way. So as we look at these things, it is important that you appreciate that risks and lack, of course, are very close to each other, but they are not the same. A risk is knowing what you are doing. Lack is is prayerful. You don't know what you're talking about. You take risk when you know what you're doing. You either understand where and how the money is made, or you don't understand. anytime you are putting money in any investment which you don't understand, it's not different from anybody who is gambling in a casino. In fact, the guy gambling in a casino may even better than you because they have studied how the system works and may have higher chances of winning than you who is putting money in what you don't completely understand. So when anybody is selling you an investment, the first thing they must tell you is where is the money being made? What is the money you are giving out doing? What is it doing before it pays you back something else? That is not negotiable. That's not a negotiable step before you invest. So the psychology about of money is key because it makes us arrive at the right decisions just by being clear in our mind that this is something that I think is right and I have reason to believe it is right. Number two, it guides us in terms of now when we move away from we've put money together, how do we multiply it? What are the options that are right for me, given my ability to take risk? Some of us cannot take high risks. Some of us can take high risks because we do have more assets. So if we lost what we've invested, we would still be okay. Being able to understand how much risk you can take at a certain stage in life is fundamental. So again, I don't want to belabor on that because that is already underlying the facts. But I want to introduce us to the two items that I said we'll be discussing today. And the first one, like I said earlier, is about the assessment of current financial situation. And then I will discuss the expense management from the point of waste reduction. How do you reduce wastes? Given the kind of time we have, those two subjects are sufficient for us to derive value with the hours that we have. So the assessment of your current financial situation is two level. So before I go to the first level, to the second level, let me show you the first level, which is on slides. Now, when you want to do financial planning, you ask, who am I planning for? Plan for yourself, you're planning for your spouse and children, you are planning for any other dependent. You set the objectives, but the most important thing is to understand where does my expenses come from? And your expenses come from your social structure. So do address your social structure. So social structure analysis is the first element of assessment of current financial situation. That's the very first element. Who am I supporting and who must I support? So if you are supporting children in terms of their regular needs, you are supporting children in terms of education, then you must know their age, because as the age of the child change, so does the needs change. So that the very first step is to ask who, then you ask how old are they and what are their regular needs. When you do that, then you begin to deal with the matter head on. A kid who is 14, before they turn 15, is in the equivalent of class 8 today. That same person, tomorrow or the year after 3 months, will be discussing a Form 1 student somewhere in a school where school fees can be anything from being two times what it was to 3 times what it was. When school fees increases from say 45 to 130 or 1 to 200, unless you had that income already prepared and put aside somewhere, that income coming from your regular income like a salary might mean a lot of damage. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't plan for things until they arrive. You think you are safe financially until school fees comes and picks quite a chunk of your money, and you realize you've got so many restrictions, and then you start to borrow to sustain the lifestyle you had in your mind before the baby took away the money by way of the new school fees. So I want us to look at that. The next set of people you plan for, you as a couple, you are starting from where you are in number 4, number 5, or number 6 of the journey. I'm referring to those numbers there. If you're in number 4, you are in your early 20s. Number 5, you are in late 20s and early 30s. In number 6, you're in late 30s and early 40s. Those 3 ages occupy 21 years of your life. And I dare say 21 years, most important years of your life. Because what you miss to do here in terms of right foundations and the walls, you will have difficulty doing finishes later in number 7 and number 8. So if you don't do things right in number 4, 7 years, number 5, 7 years, number 6, 7 years, if you have not laid good financial foundations in terms of how you behave with money so that you have enough money to set aside and multiply. Like I said earlier, the speed of multiplication may be slow, but if you are not multiplying, it will be very difficult to start multiplying in number 7 when your children are now looking for a lot of fees, especially university fees and late high school fees. At that stage, even when your income has grown 4 times, it is as if you don't have it. In number 8, you have a rare opportunity to correct things, to live a slightly better life than you would have lived. But now you only have a very short time, 7 years in number 9 and the final 7 in number 10. So you don't have a lot of time when you are below that when you've joined the senior citizens. You've got to correct things in number 4, 5, 6, and worst case by 7. So that when you hit 8, you can produce a lot with 8 if you have closed your issues in number 7. Those of us who bring children on earth late, you will pay school fees for a very long time. When you bring your children in number 5, you will stop paying school fees when you're in number 9. When you bring them in number 4, you may stop earlier than even number 8, depending on how early in number 4 they come. The more they come late, the further in your life that you will spend time maintaining and sustaining fairly young people. So let's make good social choices that lead us to good financial situations later in life. So I want to get out of here and use an Excel. I will get out of I will stop sharing what I'm sharing now, because I want to share some Excel, and I want to use that Excel to explain the current financial situation assessment. I just want to walk you through what does a personal financial balance sheet look like. And then if that is what it is, then what do we need to do? So I'll be telling you a few things and telling you what to do with it. And I think that is what we have to do today. Where's that Excel? Yes, there it is. Please confirm that you are seeing an Excel in dollars.
Not yet.
Not yet?
You can
Yes,
see now.
Visible.
Yes, you can now see it.
Yes.
Good. Now, what you have there is a typical balance sheet and a typical income statement, but this is not a company's balance sheet. This is a person's balance sheet and is a person's income statement. So what we have here is on the left-hand side is first income. Typically, we make income from 3 sources. We make income from what we call hard-earned income. Earned income involves your energy in one way or the other. Employment income and self-employment income are both earned income. They are active income, as in the personal finance lingua, we call them active income. In other words, when you're no longer active, they also disappear. So right now, one of the concerns we are dealing with is concerns on our active income. The government only taxes active income the way they do it because they are able to control it. The other source of income is what you call the passive income. And passive incomes are two categories, passive and portfolio passive. So passive is rent and business income. Now, business is key. It has to be business which can run on its own, not a side hustle. That when you're not there, it's dead. It's a business, even if it's a kiosk, it's a kiosk that is running even now when you're working, it is running. And it's able to pay you some 5, 10, 3,000 bob end of month from the investment you made. So business income is very tricky. It has to be passive, the kind of business that runs itself. Then real estate that is always passive. Now, portfolio income is earned in the form of either interest, dividends, or in very rare cases, franchise fees. In this part of the world, we don't do a lot of franchises. But in the developed world, people are busy working on formulas that can help people work easier, and then they are paid a franchise for someone by someone using their system. KFC is a very good example of a franchise here. And by the way, the man behind KFC, the man called Bell, is the man who was in Koinange Street doing that Kengeles restaurant that was supposed to be a franchise but didn't work well. He was the first CEO of KFC. And there we are. He's someone who is used to making money out of franchise. A lot of people also nowadays make residual income. People like Eric Omondi, whom you know very well, has turned his image into an active residual income earning. I am not sure whether I will say that those people who are dancing in the streets and making recordings are already earning what you would call stable residual income. I would not say so, because they need to build brands that will be attractive to different organizations to use them to push their product. And a lot of them make some income here today, but in another 2 years or 3 years from now, nobody will remember them. So you need to build that image slowly up to a very strong image, brand that can now pay itself. For me to call that portfolio income, but yes, it is portfolio income. So we do have royalties, we do have dividends, and we do have interest. Interest and dividends are the easiest to earn. So literally everyone should be earning some interest and should be earning dividends, because you don't need a lot of money to invest in instruments that pay you dividends. You need slightly more money to invest in instruments that pay you interest. Yet interest is the worst income. So we do have interest, we do have dividends, we do have royalties, we do have residual income. And then we move now to a category called passive income, rent or real estate, and the active income, which is a side hustle, and the main hustle being employment. You should at least have income from no less than 2 of these sources. And if you have active income, please have at least one of the others. That's the first point to note. Then once we have that income, we have to spend it. So we now move into expenses. I will use a different Excel to explain the different kinds of categories of expenses. But we either have non-discretionary expenses and discretionary expenses. This tool is an American tool, and I cannot edit a lot of it. I can only edit amounts. So I'm
sorry to interrupt, but you're not sharing your screen any longer.
I was showing an Excel.
Okay.
You can't see it.
We can't see it
went
any
up
longer.
Again.
Yes.
What happened? My Lord. Thanks for reminding me on time.
Thank you.
How long ago was that?
That's fine. Thank you.
What did you see last? What did you see last?
There was the income. Now it's the expense.
Oh yeah, I've just begun explaining the expenses. And I was
Yes.
saying that I'll use a different Excel to divide these expenses into categories. But they are generally just two categories. The first one is discretionary, and the second one is non-discretionary. Now, the non-discretionary expenses are those we can't avoid. And that is where we now need better management. I will explain that using a different tool when I break down the expenses. I just want to arrive at a place where I can show that. But now, after having spent what you need to spend, including those discretionary ones, kama kujipigia mwili pole, those things we say loftily, you end up with a number here that is very important. The net monthly cash flow, the difference between the income and expenses. That number currently showing there as 40,800 is a number that everyone needs to master. This number dictates whether you remain poor or you get into the wealth stream. Because a lot of us pretend to be saving money when indeed this number is negative or near zero. So that then you send a standing order to a bank and then follow the money after a very short while. Or you send the money to a bank in the form of savings and immediately you take a loan from an app, so that you are perpetually running on a deficit while you are also pretending to be saving. That kind of life, living a life on a deficit and pretending to be saving, you're actually paying interest on the money you are consuming. You're actually eating more than you are saving. So you're actually having a negative savings. But in real sense, you look like you're saving. So I want us to appreciate that number, net monthly cash flow. What it means to our lives is when we have our net monthly cash flow, we have spent money which we need to spend to cover the quality of life we have chosen. Call it the cost of my lifestyle. Because each one of us, although we consume the same things, we consume them at different prices. So we end up with different costs of lifestyle. Whereas I may be spending 154,000 shillings. Somebody else, same income level, is spending 160. Somebody else, same income level, is spending 130. Why are they doing so? Because they are buying things differently. And that is what I'll be showing you later when I'm now summarizing. How do you waste watch? Any two different people have different costs of lifestyle. Now, that number remaining there, 40,800, that is the money that you can use to cover your savings for investment in future. That's the money you can use to cover your jipigia mwili pole. That's the money you can use to help people, those of us who have a lot of helping behavior. That is the money. So if you don't have money, if you don't have money remaining here, you have no money to help people. You have no money to save. You have no money to invest. And you have no money at all, jipigia mwili pole. It means that your non-discretionary expenses are taking all the money. And the non-discretionary expenses can only take all the money when you are buying expensively, because the same thing can be bought in different places at different prices. And if you do so, then you are able to save some money. I think that message has been passed. The next part of this balance sheet is what we call, of this tool is the balance sheet. And the balance sheet is where we express the assets we own and the liabilities we use to acquire them. Liabilities represent all the borrowings, be they a card or a bank loan or an app loan. So what I have as liabilities on my right-hand side is any borrowing. And what I have as assets on the left-hand side is any asset I have acquired, first of all. So that's the first place, assets and liabilities. Now, when you come to assets, there are two categories: investment assets and personal use assets. The investment assets we buy for a return. Bank accounts give us interest. Stocks, dividends, bonds, interest, receivables, if people who are receiving money because they have delivered a service and they are owed, there's a profit in it. Real estate pays us rent and also gives give us capital gain, whether it's real estate as real estate, outright purchase or mortgage purchase. Line 48 is real estate, which you have bought using a mortgage. I will be demonstrating something there later. And then we have any business, the net value of that business. So these items here give you the incomes we are discussing up there. They give you the passive incomes and they give you the portfolio incomes. So if you don't have assets here, you don't have portfolio and you don't have portfolio income like dividends and interest. You don't have rent. You don't have business. Then we also have the next category of assets, which we all own a lot of. We are masters at owning. Let me just remove this thing here. These assets down here. Americans call them doodads. Doodads are basically assets that we enjoy ourselves. And every time we enjoy them, they throw some expenses on us. When you drive your car nicely on the road, a trailer throws a stone from between the tires, hits your windscreen, you have to go and replace it. A doodad, in the process of being enjoyed, also throw on us expenses which we must meet. A home that you enjoy yourself, a car that you enjoy yourself, other assets like furnishing at home, those are doodads. Unfortunately, for most of us, that is where we start buying, and that's where we do most of the buying. And that is a very African problem. It is not a problem of the entire world. I've had a chance to interact a lot with younger people in other economies outside Africa, and they don't have a problem with doodads. They actually spend more money on their investment assets. For us on this other side of the world, we buy the doodads first. We buy them because we come from a mentality of I lack a home, I lack a car, and transport is not good. I need my house to look this fabulous. I need my carpet. I need my, my curtains to match with the carpets. I need curtains to match with the car. Those kind of small decisions, they lead us into spending a lot of money. Now, when you borrow money, liabilities, the right financial choice to make is you borrow to invest first in the financial assets. I mean, in the earning assets. But that's not what happens. So the right thing to do is to borrow, but to borrow to buy the investment assets. Then the investment assets produce passive income, produce portfolio income that then make you improve the cost of the quality of your life. So that the decision is important, but as I'm saying, it is not what we do. That is one of the areas why we need to review our psychology, because the environments in which we were raised, what we saw, unfortunately, were our parents who are working hard to create doodads, not to create investment assets. A typical Kenyan begins to invest in their 40s. They spend their 30s on doodads. And 30s is when you need to be investing in earning assets so that in your 40s, the earning assets improve your lifestyle. And then the last part of the balance sheet is just the sum of everything, what we call net worth. Now, net worth comes in two forms. Net worth that is created by my investment assets only, and net worth that is created by the sum of the two. In people who are less financially literate tend to look at the sum of the two as the big number. So you end up with a balance sheet in which your house is 50% of your wealth, when indeed you should have a balance sheet in which your investments carry 75% of your wealth and your house is 25% or less within the principles of personal finance. So those are things that people need to know. But before I let my mind go on the wrong side, when the balance sheet items and the income statement items interact, we get some very good ratios that show us whether our financial literacy is at the right level or not. At the analysis section, that fourth section there, that area is showing you the relationship between your cash flow and total income. Where cash flow is that money that remained after you had spent the income. Remember what we were doing? The net monthly income cash flow there, that 40,800. When you divide it as a percentage of all the income, it shows how much you keep. Now that word, how much you keep, is important because I mentioned to you that that number can either show whether you are getting wealthy or getting poorer. For you to invest, you need to be keeping, because savings is only a medium before you invest. We really can't get wealthy by saving. Saving is a medium to invest in. We will be borrowing money from a bank to invest. We'll be borrowing money from a circle to invest. All of them require us to demonstrate that we can save. So that ratio, how much you keep, is crucial. I want to demonstrate something. Assume that you have a property in this balance sheet that is not a home that you're enjoying. So I want to remove this home from being here, and I want to make it real estate here. Maybe even one that has a mortgage. So assume that you borrowed 5 million shillings, and then you bought property worth 4 million shillings. Rather, the property is worth 5 million shillings, and you borrowed 4 million shillings because you brought in your own million. Sorry, I think I put 150 million. So you now have 1 million. The property is 5 million. You've used 4 million in terms of loan. So I want to come this side and make mortgage 4 million here. So I now have a mortgage as 4 million. Because you have a property which you are not using, you are earning rent. So when you are earning rent, you go to the rental place in terms of your income and show real estate income of 25. And I have it there. Then we also are assuming that you own a business, and the business is here, is 595. Let's assume it's an Uber taxi that pays you net 20K at the end of the month. So let me use 10,000 shillings first, so that in the business section, I am showing that you earn 10,000 shillings in rent. So now you are earning 25,000 in real estate and 10,000 in rent, but you no longer own the house for your own use. You moved the house from your own use. It was here 4 million, it is now become a mortgage. Those numbers have changed that number. If you look at that number, it has become 24 because you have added 10,000 shillings income. Now, already I had 25,000 here, even when you didn't have rent. So you can imagine already it would have been looking like this. So when I put in 25,000 back here, you start to see that now 25,000 bob is moving me to 24%. Now, if I remove that property, now I want you to look at one ratio. If you look at this ratio, there's a ratio here called how much do you spend on doodads? It's currently 21%. 21% because you've spent this 700,000 in a car and 350 in your maybe your households. But I want to remove that property from being a rental property to a property you are using. So first of all, the moment you stop renting it, you also remove the rental income. So I want to lower that. I've removed the property from being a rental property, and I want to remove the rental income. And then I take the property back to be a home, 4 million shillings. So I give you your home, you enjoy it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you're enjoying your home, you're not paying rent. Now look at what happens to the ratios here. Doodads go to 65%. Of course, the monies which we call rent has gone to zero. So now our how much we keep has dropped. We then initially we had 40, now we have 25,800. Because this income has reduced, this net monthly cash flow has reduced, how much you keep has dropped by 10% from 24 to 14. Now, those choices are the choices that people make on a daily basis, and some become wealthy and some become poor because they made the right choices at the right time. So a house is a nice item to own, but are you owning it as a home or are you owning it as a rental property? The other day, one politician was arguing, should I buy a flat or should you not invest in a flat? That's not a very wise decision that was made there in the media, because he was speaking for the people who are leveraging, people in the A-class income level for whom property doesn't make sense. For people in the middle and below, purchasing stable items into your investment plan is necessary. So you need to be investing in some stable assets like property. And it is not irrelevant. It's not an argument unless he confirms to me that he has a CFA charter, which he doesn't have, and I would be arguing him out. What I want us to appreciate is this: that the choice you make with how much money you keep will either kill or make your future. You have more money to invest. Now look at how much of that money is working for you. How much does your money work for you? You are currently only earning 5.56%. But when I go back and yes.
Are we still on the
Go ahead.
slides? Are we still on the Excel?
Yes, I'm on the Excel. I've not moved.
It's not showing. Kindly, you can try to
Unless this system, does the system throw me out or what? I'm sorry. When did that happen? How long ago is that?
Now. Right now, when you started giving us a scenario of someone buying a house.
So what I want to do, I want to show you another scenario. Now, I'm showing you that you are how much money is working for you is only 5.65, meaning what kind of passive and portfolio income are you earning? Only 5%. Yet you own a 4 million home. So you have a 4 million home here that is not working for you. It's now treated as doodad. When I remove that home and return it where I was, where you borrowed 4 million to buy a 5 million house, to 3, and I bring it back there. When I bring that money back there, sorry, that is 3. Yes, when I bring that money back there, now I own a mortgage of 4 million, market value of 1 million, but I'm also earning rent. So I want to go back and earn rent, the same rent I was earning of 25K from that property in Rongai. You can clearly see that my money is now working for me 17%, meaning the salary I earn only covers 83% of my life. My other assets are covering 17% of my life. Anybody seeking financial freedom must play in this area. You must increase the monies. So I want to be a bit more aggressive. Assume that your property is earning you 20K. I mean, your Uber is earning you 20K. It's not earning you 10. So we have 25 and 20. That percentage goes to 28. Now your salary is covering 72% of your income, and your passive income is, your salary is covering 25% of your income needs, and your assets is covering 28. So the more you have in that place, the better. If you want to go and earn interest, earn some 10,000 bob in interest monthly, just interest only, and then earn some dividends, another 15,000 shillings monthly. You can see how much you are getting in. 35%, 29% of the income you earn actually come from your passive assets. You are less dependent on a salary. You would not feel Ruto. You would not feel Ruto like the rest of us are feeling Ruto. And this is a business case for people to start putting money aside to multiply early. Please appreciate the power of compounding. It requires time. If you save 5,000 shillings every month without fail. And you save it for approximately, say, even 20 years. And I'll calculate that. If you save 5,000 bob per month for 12 months without failing, and you compound that money at just 12%, which is 1.12 compounding rate, and you do that for say how many months? Let's say 60 months. No, 15 years. Do that for 15 years. You will end up with a very huge amount of money. 3.2. That is almost 3.2 what? Just do it again. If you compound 5,000 shillings times 12 becomes 60K at the end of the year. Then you compound it, you multiply it by 1.12. You grow it at a rate of 12%. That's it. You compound it at 12% for 15 years. That money becomes 328,000. It's more than that. I think I'm making a mistake somewhere when I'm doing my entries. 60,000 at the end of the year, multiplied by 1.12, gives you 60, just about 7,200 as the compound return for year one. Then you do that for 15 years. It becomes, oh, sorry. I need to clear my memory. There are mistakes happening in my calculator. I will be wasting your time. But you will notice that when you compound money for many years, even if the return is low, it gives you very big amounts. What I've seen is about when you compound about 60K for around 20 years, it almost gives you 1 million, Bob. So if you did 60, 60, 60, 60, 5 times. So year 1, 60, year 2, 60, year 3, 60, year 4, 60, year 5, 60. And you left all that money to compound at 12 or 13% for just about 20 years, 19 years, 18 years, up to 17. You will end up with quite a good amount of money when you are retiring. So we need to allow compounding to work, and compounding only works when we allow money to be available in the monthly cash flow. Now that compounding is what we are saying, does your money work for you? Does your money work for you means, are you earning income that is covering your expenses? The more you allow that income to multiply first before you use it, the more money you have. I think that's an important point to note. So in summary, we need to be aware of our sources of income. We need to be aware of our expenses, expense lines, which I want to take you to next, because I want to use it to discuss the ways to watch. We need to be very aware of what is our cost of lifestyle. Our cost of lifestyle is what is taking most of us down. And then there are things we call non-discretionary expenses. In Kenya, the cultures are such that we spend more money helping people, either taking people to school, sickness, harambes, and what have you. And if you are not in good control of self, a very huge chunk of your income actually end up in that help category. So we spend more money in the discretionary items naturally, and we also are wasteful in the way we spend what we must buy. Now, I cannot stop you from spending money in kujipigia mwili pole, in helping others. I showed you what to do in the initial stages. You need to deal with yourself. But I can show you what you can do in terms of how do I manage my non-discretionary expenses to lower the cost of my lifestyle so that I may have some more money to invest. That one is what I want to show you here. The other one I leave to you to do. So I will stop sharing the Excel I was sharing, and I will start sharing a completely different one, the one I'm going to use to show you, to demonstrate to you how to reduce the non-discretionary expenses and then release some money. Now, the tool I'm going to use is a financial planning tool, but it will be able to show me what I want to show you now. So there I am moving to it. Please confirm when you're seeing it. It's called current personal financial statement. Sorry, I need to remove one of the Excels. I think I am showing the wrong one. So let me close one and have only one. Yes. So I'm beginning to share. Please confirm what you are seeing is an Excel, only that this one we use for a completely different purpose.
Yes, it is visible.
Somebody's
Yeah, we
good.
can see.
Now, while you are there, that one also starts with your income. But the income is not the most important point here. The income you treat the way we've done things there. We are going to be dealing with the net income, that net income there. For everyone, first of all, when you have net income, when you want to borrow, when you go to a bank, what a bank will ask you is, what is the cost of your lifestyle? So the bank calculates.
We are not seeing any presentation.
It is an Excel. You're not seeing that?
We are able to see an Excel.
Yes, we are not seeing it.
Yes.
Okay, I will get out
No.
and re-show it again so that everyone can see it. I am showing now, starting now. So you should see it in a few minutes.
Yes, now visible.
Good. What you're seeing is an adaptation of the other tool. The only difference now is the focus. But I'm interested in that net income. I'm not interested in many things because now I want to discuss spending. If that is your net income, the first thing you do, you calculate something called debt service ratio. Most bank policies, some of which I have written, by the way, require that you sustain at least half of your net income for your lifestyle. That's a principle being followed. And that you only subject a maximum of half of your net income. Now, I'm referring to net disposable income, not net income after the loans. You have not borrowed at this point. All you have is taken your gross income and remove the taxes. So when you have that number called net disposable income, you divide it by 2. In this case, the number is 178. So if I divide it by 2, it is that divided by 2, it will be showing you a number that is approximately 89,000. That 89,000 is all you have for your lifestyle on one side, and the other 89,000 is to cover your development, your loans, your work, your commitment. This is a skill you want to learn very early in your life. It's not just knowing it in theory, but living it. Because if you get out of this balance early in your life, especially before you turn 43, my friend Utaimba, you will be known by all SACCO credit managers because you will end up going there all the time to borrow. So that 89,000 is what we have to apply to the things which we must do, which are here. And the things, number one, is pay God. God, you paid on the gross, before you arrived at that number. By the time you're arriving at that number, you've paid God. That 10% is gone. But it's calculated on the basis of the full number. Then you are supposed to pay people we call people who give us goods and services. It is called paying other people. Those who go to church and mosques and give, you give according to your pocket. There's no percentage for giving. Neither the Bible nor the Quran say when you are giving, give this. But when you are tithing, it is indicated clearly. It is 10% of the gross. So paying yourself comes first. But I'm now looking at someone who has been ravaged. A lot of people in this country save as little as 3% of their income, 5% of their income. Ideally, that is one percentage that need to go up to 10% as quickly as possible. Whatever is causing it to stay at those levels of 3% is keeping you in poverty longer. You need to remove those things. From principles, we should not spend more than 12% of our gross income on rent. So if you are going to be paying rent, nothing more than 12%. If you are paying a mortgage, try to keep it at the maximum of 25%. Otherwise, you might not do any other borrowing. And if you are going to borrow on a mortgage only, no other debt, then you can go up to 3% on that number. Items like transport, including transport for children, can be very expensive. So stay in a place where you don't need to pay a lot of money to go to work regularly, because you'll be traveling every day. The frequency is not changing. So you don't need long distances also. Try and play with that. School fees, SACCO loans, all those other things. Now, what I've done with this document is to show you that you should not exceed the upper limit. Remembering that people are at different life phases. Some are younger, some are older. As you grow older, some expenses drop, but others increase. While you are younger, some expenses are higher, while others are lower. So this is not a percentage for everyone. But please appreciate that if you're spending more than 2% of your gross income, then you must really lower your transport cost to work, because you're already living beyond your means when you are paying rent more than 12%. Now, if you are going to pay rent of 12% far away from where you are working, so again, you have transport cost to pay, which is very high. And you also have to bring children with you to go to school where you go, so that then again, you go around town chasing them. I think you are messing up yourself, including if you're staying in Kitengela, why bring children to Makini all the way? You hire transport to bring children to Makini. There must be a better school that aside. Otherwise, leave Kitengela, come and stay near Makini. It doesn't make sense. Because those children will be paying transport for 8 years each. And the transport is always increasing every year. By the time you finish safari ya kufunza watoto, umekunjana. So expense management is a factor of decisions being made within guidelines. And those guidelines are personalized. They are not for all ages. That's what I want to demonstrate. You also have to do bank loans. So what I have at the bottom, bank loans or other people's money. You need to access other people's money using half of your income. All your loans on earth should not exceed your half of income. You combine installment number 1, installment number 2, installment number 3, installment number 4. They should not exceed half of your income. Debt service ratio of 50-50. If you are not doing that, then make sure that the money invested. If you are not investing the money, we will be helping you to come from trouble very soon. Financial troubles are invited. They never visit someone. So I want to get out of that and go back to my slides and summarize what I was showing you earlier using an example of a budget, and then we can have a question and answer session and we close it. So there's a budget right ahead. It's right there. Please confirm that you're seeing that budget.
I'm not seeing it.
I've just shown it now. It's still coming. Hello, are you seeing it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Why is it taking too long? Why, my Lord? I've gone out. Yes, now?
It's about. We can now see it.
Good. Please focus on scenario number 1 to the left-hand side. We will look at scenario number 2 later. In scenario number 1 to the left-hand side, there are items in black color. And then there's a green section with numbers 1 to 10. In the dark area, those expenses you have there, they are called non-discretionary expenses. Those expenses, you don't have a choice about them. You must spend money on them. I have been discussing the cost of your lifestyle. That is the cost of your lifestyle. Each household has its own cost. They spend the same thing, they spend money on the same things, but they buy at different prices because of their desire to seek value are different. You buy food, I buy food. You pay for shelter, I pay for shelter. You buy clothing, I buy clothing. You pay for medical, I pay for medical. Education, education, both of us. The cost of our lifestyle is where the hidden agenda is. When you are broke, that's the first place you visit. How am I buying is the first question you ask, not what do I buy. You first question, how am I buying? Because you can buy maize cob in Kawangware at 5 to 10 bob, but you can also buy the same maize cob at the junction at 100 bob. So if you are living in Kilimani, you have a choice of 2 markets, Kawangware on the left, on the right, and junction on the left. One will sell for you maize at 100 bob. One will sell for you maize at 10 bob. Yet the one that has gone to the junction came from Kawangware. So how you buy, what you buy is not the issue. It's how much are you spending to buy? Are you value seeking or are you prestige seeking? The answer is what we call waste watch. You watch waste by questioning how you buy, and you change how you buy. So that your cost of those items per day needs to drop down. Right now, food is costing 400 bob per day. You can lower that by how you buy. Simple example is how we buy rice, buy in bale or buy in kilos. The same rice being sold in kilos, 5 kilos, 2 kilos, 1 kilo. In bale, you save up to 40 bob per kilo. Same quality of rice. If you look at the price per kilo retailing and the price per kilo in a bale, the savings is no more than 40 bob, 50 bob. I buy rice that costs approximately 265. I buy it from Mombasa. But if I buy it from this town, the price moves to 600 bob. Yet I buy it every month and I buy it from Mombasa directly. I pay and then it is put on a vehicle to come for me here. And I use it here. And I buy it at 265 in Mombasa. How, not what? So please deal with that. I don't have enough time to go line by line. It's a question of why am I buying the way I'm buying? Change how you buy. Question the value you are acquiring for the price you are acquiring it for. Try to get the same value for a lower cost. Bulk purchases. Wholesales are for everyone. Buy dry goods from wholesales. Buy wet goods on need basis. You save more money on dry goods when you buy them wholesale than when you buy them retail. In the area that is green with no indication of an item, that area is what I call the discretionary expenses, and items that flow in there are things like pesa ya kusaidia watu, the money you spend helping people, the money that goes towards your entertainment of any form, the money that goes towards your savings and investment. Those three lines are in the green section. You can live your life without having to save or invest. You can live your life without having to go through entertainment because people must live first. You can live your life without helping anyone. But most of us, those are major items because we are socially a little bit more emotional than logical. And that's why I took time to discuss logical minds versus very social, very friendly minds. If you look at scenario number 2, the items in the yellow section, that yellow section is a choice you've made in your life that with the present income, I still want to grow. So I want to buy things in a manner that I still have, I can accommodate something. For example, if you are able to reduce your daily expenses from 400, you reduce by 120. You can add a pension account. You can even reduce money, small amounts from each item to just give you 120 per day extra. Then you park it somewhere else. You want a car, you must reduce those expenses in a manner that they give you 600 a day. You want a mortgage, you must reduce those expenses in a manner that they give you 1,500 a day. So if you want to add anything in the yellow section, you must change how you buy with the present income so that you are able to start building that, because financial discipline is about being able to live a better quality of life on the same income, which means you buy better, you exercise more discipline. But if you don't, you end up with the deficit you are seeing there at the bottom. That negative 1,190 is the result of assuming that you buy all these items from without changing anything in the way you behave. And that's what most of us do. Then we start discussing Fuliza, up number 1, up number 2, up number 3. When you get to my desk here to help you with debt management, I can tell you I will only help you remove things you already have. And I've already shown you. I will only help you to go through a forced process of doing it. Nothing else. It's removing this deficit by changing what I have, removing things I don't need, and lowering expense lines, lowering my overall cost of life. That is what debt management is about. So anytime you are in debt trouble, check what you buy and how you buy first. Before you check whether what I buy is bad or right, check how you buy. Then ask, should I even have this item on my list? So up to there, I don't want to answer any other question except, I don't want to preempt any other thing other than answer questions that may be asked. So I'll take it back to Damaris. Please handle that conversation. Let's start with any questions that may have been asked by now.
Okay, most of them are inquiring whether we are going to share this. And yes, I've confirmed that we are going to do it before close of business.
Yes.
So at this juncture, I welcome you members to ask any questions, or you can put them up in the chat box, or you raise your hand in the next 5-10 minutes.
I think somebody called Rachel is asking that I share the template with recommended ratios. Raphael, rather, that might not be possible because the ratios you have there are general. The upper limit is for all, but the lower limit depends on your age. So unless I am customizing it to your age and circumstances, I might not be able to share it in what I would call recommended ratios. I'm giving you ratios where the maximum is this. But now where you play below the maximum, that will be subject to what else are you lowering or raising somewhere else. The Excel will be shared, yes. Confirmed. Go ahead, Damaris.
There are no more questions, so we are waiting for the members to raise questions if they have any.
They can raise their arms. Raise your arm and just we'll allow you to talk better. Both Excels will be shared. The idea is you need to know how to use them. In absence of any questions, what do we do? Someone is asking, what is your advice? What is your advice for starters when growing their income? Well, if you are new to employment, for example, then you must really learn what you call the principles first and then stick to them, because those principles are helping you to develop appropriate behaviors within certain parameters. For example, number one, you must save, and you need to save as high as 50% of your income if you are staying with your parents, 30% if you are staying alone or engaged. And the amounts can only drop to 15 or 10 when you have children. So that's a requirement. How much do you put to rent? Nothing more than 12% of your gross income should go to your rent. So those are things you want to deal with. I think key thing is, while you start with the discipline of getting things done right as early as possible. Because once you build in discipline, it will be very expensive to remove it. Elena, you're asking what is the investment option for those starting their careers? Starting careers, does it mean that you are young? Because careers, people can start very late. Let me assume that you're young. That assumption is important. When you are young, you buy assets that your small money can afford, but will pay you in future. In other words, they are called growth assets. Growth assets are assets that are cheap to buy today. A share, for example, Safaricom at 30 bob. I don't know which company at 40 bob, which one at 10, which one at 100. Anybody can buy that. So you buy that, you buy assets that grow in nature. Now, I cannot sit here now and tell you all of them because they change over time. But the philosophy is that you buy assets that give you more capital gain in terms of growth than they pay you cash. And I gave you the example when I was younger, I bought National Bank at 1 shilling and 46 cents in 1995. I sold them recently when KCB was buying NBK. Yet nothing else, nothing good had happened at NBK that entire walk of life. I sold them for 16 bob each. I bought my Safaricom shares for 3 bob. Yesterday, Safaricom was selling at 27 bob. So at any one time, I'm in profit 24 shillings anytime. So that growth kind of agenda is what young people are starting up until you hit your early 40s should be worried on. And then you build that early. You also look at small houses like these things Savo are building around Thika Road. They are called what? Studios. Studios are built on the trunk roads, main trunk roads, and are likely to grow very fast in value. Right now, Ngong is receiving a railway. The moment Ngong receives the railway and the railway is running, Ngong will be a place to look for small property, because that will also attract a lot of young people to come and live here, given the good transport that will be there. Not now. We don't have those kind of houses. We don't have them today, but that will happen. So you build for the future when you are young. When you are older, you are able to invest on large assets that pay you cash kind of return. So rent should be a good thing to earn more. Profit should be something to earn more in the mid ages, 35 and above, up to around 40, 55. Above 55, you now want to start even considering how risky is it. So those are the issues we deal with when you are buying assets. I hope I have answered that guy who asked the question about what is the ideal. It's not standard for everyone. Yes, somebody asked, explain further on the principle of pay yourself first. The principle of pay yourself first is that you should always pay yourself a proportion of your income before you spend any money. Now, how much you pay depends on your financial situation. There are principles and then there are realities. People who are above the age of 35 with children who did not keep the principles from the beginning might not be able to keep the principle of 10% or 15%, but they need to pay themselves. Even if it is 3%, pay yourself first. When you take a loan, do you give the loan? Do you tithe on the loan amount? Honestly, I've had this question about tithing loan amounts, and I'll tell you what. I'm somebody who grew up being trained as a priest. The Bible that I have read does not talk about tithing loans. These are people who are playing with your minds. Tithing debts. A tithe is described in Leviticus chapter 26 and Deuteronomy chapter 28. Read those two chapters. Don't get spiritual because someone told you. Those two chapters in the Bible tell you exactly what a tithe should be. So by the time you tithe, you are tithing according to what the book says, not what some pastor has said. I've been asked about tithing loans. I've been asked about tithing debt. You have a debt, someone tells you to give a tithe of 10% of what you have. That is playing with God. That is playing with God. I'm sorry, but having been trained as a priest, I get annoyed when I read some things that don't align to what the book says. Please read this book, Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. Read those two chapters yourself. If in doubt, call me 0723 786 362. I will walk you through that liturgy. I don't think it is right to be discussing tithing of debt. Tithing is on income and is 10% of gross income. It is clearly covered there. The first fruits, you give 10% to the house of the Lord, because in the house of the Lord, there's a family that only serves the Lord. They don't work. Today, they are called priests. Then it was a family. How safe or secure are we investing in stocks and bond? You are extremely secure as long as the company is secure. The level of insecurity in any of those assets would be if the company is not doing well. By the time you're investing in it, you are taking a very high chance. So it's not a question of the country or whatever. If you look at items, instruments that like what these guys, the standard investment are selling, a Mansa. Mansa is
they don't
Mansa
believe
is
in
a
10%.
product that is bought out of stocks and bonds, but they are global in nature. They are not local assets. The local assets form a very small percentage of that fund. I get this question all the time. Should I invest in Mansa? Yes. If you are anywhere between the ages of starting to work up to 45 or even 55, you should have Mansa in your portfolio. It's a right asset to have as a financial asset, but don't have too much of it, because is an item, is an asset made out of a lot of foreign assets, and assets that are in other countries, especially US, can move very fast when something happens in those economies. So don't overexpose yourself in that area. It's good to ask this question in terms of how much should I carry before you carry it. Don't go out there and carry too much and then come and say, I carried too much of it. I've advised that you should buy, but how much you have to consult, because it depends on your risk, your ability to take risk. Someone is asking your views on long-term loans that really affect one's income. Yes, as much as if once you are on loan, and unfortunately, when you are on loan and things get out of hand, you have to renegotiate the loan terms. The longer the term of the loan, the longer the time you pay interest. Even if the interest rate is low, that time element makes the interest component high. But I would rather you negotiate the term, repay the loan slower, and you want to borrow to invest. Because you want to create more room to borrow to invest, that would make sense. But if you are negotiating to pay a loan on a longer term and you are also foregoing investment, that's a loss. You better take the pain on your back now. Someone is asking, use a case scenario of my basic salary, USD $1,000, mandatory expenses, rent 10%, food, blah, blah, blah.
Can't hear you.
You.
Patrick, we lost you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, some people don't seem to hear me, so I'm changing the line from fiber to Airtel. Please confirm that I'm still audible.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Now you're
I
audible.
have changed. I'm audible.
Yeah,
Good.
now you're
Because
audible.
unfortunately, I think some people are in weak locations. It's not really might be they who are in weak locations, because we are everywhere. Now, what I was saying, what I was explaining to I think the gentleman who asked about a chicken business. A chicken business, the main thing in a chicken business, when you have bought the birds and brought them home, you must have the money for all the vaccinations, and you must have the money for the feeding, depending on how long they are lasting, whether they are giving you meat or giving you eggs. If it's meat, is 6 months minimum. So if you cannot raise the capital for that, regardless of the amount of money you spend, you are showing me here, you have to have enough money remaining in your pool of capital base to do a structure, the size that will carry, say, 500 chicken or such many such many structures that each carry 500 chicken. That is the first cost which you must incur. Then you must have all the monies for all the vaccinations. They must be vaccinated on time. You must have your capital ready. So I cannot tell you right now, because I did chicken last in 2020. I would not know how much money you need today to be able to advise you whether this income is adequate or not adequate. But I can tell you, I spent no less than 100K just putting up 500 chicken for 6 months. I didn't spend less than that during COVID. And it's something I've gone through. So you need those three things first. Get the structure, get the chicken. The chicks are very cheap, maybe 10K only. But now once they arrive, is when they consume the money. Make sure you have the money for vaccinations for all the phases, and make sure you have the money for feeding them for all 6 months before you start. Somebody's asking here, please give me more insights why rent should be 12% of gross income. This is a principle of personal finance. It's not Romeo saying it, but what it means is if you are paying more than 12% of your gross income in rent, the remaining money will not meet your other needs, because rent is something, is a need which you must have. But there are other things which you also need. So if you are overspending on a need which you must have, then you must sacrifice something else. That is the basis of principles. And this is a personal finance principle globally. It's not something that is starting today. And you are then asking gross income and not net income. Now, the calculation of a principle on net income cannot be done because net income is subject to behaviors of the borrower. Gross income is not subject. So unless you use the net disposable income, which does not have behaviors, you'll be having a varying number if you compare between yours and somebody else. Because what I mean by behavior is net income includes loans. You've already borrowed. Now, when you're calculating these kind of numbers, you calculate them before you add in your borrowing behavior. I have used rent to buy, but not any spending is applicable. Okay. My contact, Emily, is 0723. I'll type it here. Let's not bother it. 0723-786-362. I'll put it there on the rider there. You can read it there. I think we have covered everything. Somebody's asking, is it good advice to go into transport business or engage in rentals? My friend, transport business is not for the faint-hearted. I have personally lost money in transport business. Transport business has a lot of other issues that you are not seeing. Before you get paid, the police has been paid. Mungiki has been paid. Those people that you call SACCOs, I call them Mungiki. They must be paid. So by the time you are getting your money, you are third or fourth on the queue. The Makanga has paid himself. The driver has paid himself. Managing a transport business, if you don't have a manager and you aren't available, is throwing capital out into the ocean straight. It is a very tricky business. I've tried taxis. Cash is an issue. You have to build experience in these businesses. You have to start slow. Today I can run them because I've gone through them over a long time. But managing cash businesses is such a big issue because everybody pays themselves before you get paid. You need to know when I be happy. So I would not urge someone sitting in a bank somewhere pretending that when I buy a metro, it will run well. That's a lie. I did that when Kibaki came here and I lost 3.3 million. I tried taxis in around 2001, and after about 19 months, all my numbers were showing I was net not making money. Because in the earlier days, you make money. As the vehicles get older, you spend all the money keeping them. The drivers outside there don't take care of your car. So make sure you have a driver who takes care of your car. because it's an asset. It has to be in good shape to produce. But if it's being spoiled, sorry, the money you make in the first 6 months will pay the damage in the last 18 months. If one does not have a job, it is advisable. Is it advisable to take a loan from Haki or Mogo to buy a car and do a business Uber? Honestly, if you are borrowing a loan based on preemptive income, that already is not a good advice. That's why I'm not advising you as a financial advisor. But I told you earlier that I'm a very, very experienced person in credit. It is not right to borrow based on preemptive income. No lender will lend you money on projected income as repayment. We always lend you money on the present capacity to pay. Now, why is that the case? Because if you have not been running an Uber, do you know the Uber problems? That inexperience itself is the first risk to you being able to pay the loan. Number two, here, you are borrowing from very expensive sources. That Mogo, that Haki sources are very expensive relative to the kind of business you're going into. Why don't you try to borrow a loan from a SACCO where the rate of interest is much, much lower and use it to buy starting? Because your loan will grow so fast that if your income is not growing at the same level, you will not be able to pay. If you run a business and put all your money in the business runs well, but most of it is owed or debt, but private. So can you consider this as a strong investment that can influence the next move of either moving away from your job? There's already risks in those statements. If you run a business and put all your money in it, you're already in danger. You should not put all your money in a business. Because things change. Some things change. When Trump made announcements, nobody knew NGOs will no longer be receiving the monies the day before he made the announcements. Now, if those NGOs are your customers, what happens to your sales turnover the following day, the following month, the next 3 months, next 4 months? So putting all your money in a business is where the issue is. I think a business that is running well is a good business, but I have a problem with putting all your money in it. That is a dangerous financial statement that you've made there. When you want to quit a job, please make sure, first of all, that you are at least able to be safe. You don't have to be very safe, but you should be able to survive several months without any income. I have been there. I left employment 17 years ago, and I can tell you the first 19 months were not very balanced. And still, I had my kids in school and what have you. So if I did not have a big pocket that could cover them, or good opportunities that could pay me money quickly, I would have not paid it. And here is not, I'm not telling you something on Excel. Here I am telling you something that I've also lived in. So just try to cover your costs before you quit. Don't care about what you are quitting with more. Care about, can I be able to survive for even up to a whole year when my things are still catching up? Because when you have something running well, when you are inside, it doesn't mean to run when we are outside. Things change. And what changes those things come from areas which you can't control. So I don't want to offer you a blanket advice here that's a misadvice. It is something I've gone through here. Try to cover your back for at least a year, such that while you are still struggling to get things working, the basic life is moving on. Then kindly, which is the best idea for investment for a pension for a person under the age of 40 years? Are your views? For under the age of 40 years, you are young. Buy real estate, buy shares of good, what called growth companies. Let me explain something here, and please take notes. When you want to buy shares, we have 3 kinds of shares. We have growing companies, we have growth companies, and we have mature companies. Mature companies are the likes of breweries and BAT. They have acquired their market share. They are no longer growing. They no longer have opportunities. When they make money, they pay out most of it as dividends. Their shares are very expensive. Usually, you'll be discussing about 500 bob per share in the current market. And luckily, from 1st of September, you can buy shares without buying 100. So that has lowered the need for so many people. Now, the other kind of share is what we call growth. Growth companies, as a company like KCB, like I'm not saying it's like because KCB at the moment is making the most amount of money out of it, the strategies it implemented about 5-6 years ago. It has not been expanding by buying other businesses in the last 5 years. It's just maximizing. Very soon it might again begin to grow by acquiring. The moment it begins to grow by acquisition, it's no longer growth. It's called a growing company. A growing company is largely growth in value is resulting from the expansions more than from the good execution of a strategy. You saw when Centum at one point stopped even paying dividends and went into a growth phase of buying literally everything. Right now it's turning from growing company to growth. It's more of maximizing its portfolio. So when you're young, you buy growth or growing. So when you go to a stockbroker, ask which of these shares here represent either growing company or a growth company. People in the middle age, around 30, 40, you can very easily be comfortable with growth companies because they are more expensive than growing companies, but you can afford them. People who are younger, growing companies are better for you. You are more for capital gain. Have I answered somebody? I think someone is saying you didn't tackle this part, and if you take a loan at 10% and place the money in my pension, is it a good move? Why should you borrow for a pension? Pension, you don't borrow. Pension, what you do, you put money in what you call a deferred pension product. ICA and Old Mutual, rather Old Mutual UAP is now one thing. And ICA, those two insurance companies have deferred pension products. So if you can raise like $500,000, Bob, you go and put it in a deferred pension, compounding at about 13%. That money will be about 1.3 million shillings, 1.4 million shillings in just about 10 years. So every $500,000 you give them becomes 1.5 million in about 10 years. That should be enough for pension. So think in terms of putting money, not borrowing to put in pension, growing your own savings and putting it into deferred pensions. Because a deferred pension gives you the interest rate at which it will compound today. You know the rate at which your pension will be growing today. But don't borrow to put in pension unless the rate of borrowing is really low. You should never borrow to invest unless the rate of return is higher than the rate you're paying on interest. Because now when you borrow 500 and you pay back 700, it's as if you have invested 700 in ICA from the beginning, but really you've given 500. So when you end up making 1.3, you minus the 700 as the initial. The real growth is 13 minus 7. That is 600. So Bana, good luck. I cannot talk about the best ideas, but I cannot talk about good ideas. The best means to you, your situation. And I have not sat with you to kind of analyze your situation. So it cannot be a good idea. I think, Damaris, we are almost at the top of the hour. Do you want to continue? Or do you want to handle that?
Okay, now I think if you have one more question in the chat box, maybe you can handle that. Then we close at exactly 11:55.
There is none. There is none unless there's one I've passed. How about mobile farming in a village? 300 kilometers away. That's a joke. That is giving money away to people right away. Because our villages, we are in Kenya, and Kenyans are not very trustworthy. If you're going to have your employees in a farm, yes. But if you're going to have your relatives in the farm, no.
So I think we don't have any more questions.
Hmm.
So at this juncture, let me take this opportunity to really appreciate you, Patrick, for the very insightful presentation. And we are looking forward to even having you in future. I can see there is one here, Martin Maida, who is asking us to plan and do retirement planning. Yes, we can still invite you and take us through on the same. So thank you, members, for joining, and looking forward to having you in our next webinar next month. Thank you. You can now leave. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Someone is asking for my address, so I'll put it there. I'll put it in the chat section so that we don't all